There's a moment in every girl's life when she looks around and wonders, does anyone even notice me? It often happens quietly. No dramatic music, no spotlight, just a slow, sinking feeling that your presence somehow dissolves into the background. You speak and people talk over you. You help and people forget your name. You show up for others again and again. And when you finally need someone, suddenly everyone becomes busy. And in the stillness of that disappointment, you begin to ask yourself dangerous questions, not because they're wrong, but because they're heavy. Do I matter? Am I important to anyone? Why does it feel like I'm invisible? I want to tell you something that most people spend their entire lives never realizing. Being unnoticed is not the same thing as being unworthy. These are two very different truths, and when you confuse them, you start shrinking yourself to fit into places that never deserved you in the first place. People don't see you not because you lack value, but because they lack the depth to recognize what's standing right in front of them. And that's not your flaw, that's their limitation. Think about it. Diamonds don't scream for attention. They don't glow in the dark. They just sit silently, waiting for someone with the right eye to notice their brilliance. And many will walk by without ever understanding what they're looking at. But a diamond doesn't stop being a diamond because someone mistook it for a stone. And you don't stop being who you are because someone didn't appreciate you. There are girls who have spent their entire childhoods being the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who holds everything together behind the scenes, and when no one tells you good job or thank you, you start believing that you're forgettable. But the truth is, people often rely most heavily on the person they take for granted. You become the emotional backbone of every room you enter, and nobody realizes that you too are human, that you too need support. And because you're good at being strong, people assume you don't need anything at all. But let me tell you, your quiet strength speaks louder than any spotlight ever could. There's a power in you that doesn't need applause to exist. There's a significance in you that continues whether or not anyone recognizes it. You have depth, you have substance, you have a presence that is felt even when it's not acknowledged. And maybe the reason you feel invisible isn't because you're small, but because you're standing among people who can only see the surface. You're not invisible, you're simply in the wrong room, the wrong environment, the wrong audience. Sometimes life doesn't hide you to punish you, sometimes it hides you to prepare you, to give you space to grow without the noise, to teach you to stand on your own, to help you build a self-worth that no one else has the power to give or take away. You don't need the world to clap for you to know your value. You don't need everyone's attention to be significant. What you need is the courage to stop questioning your worth based on someone else's blindness. The truth is, you matter far more than you realize. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you'll stop begging to be seen by people who don't even see themselves clearly. So let this sink in. You were never invisible. You were simply looking for validation in places too small to recognize the magnitude of your existence. And the moment you stop tying your value to other people's recognition, you become unstoppable. ChatGPT said, there comes a moment in every girl's life when she realizes just how often she has apologized for things that never required an apology in the first place. You apologize for speaking too much. You apologize for being quiet. You apologize for being emotional, and then apologize again for being too cold. You apologize for wanting something, and then you apologize for dreaming too big. It's as if you've been trained to believe that your existence is some kind of inconvenience, that taking up space is a crime, and expressing yourself is something you're supposed to feel guilty about. But let's be honest, this isn't your natural state. You weren't born afraid of your own voice. You learned that fear. You learned it from being told to calm down, or don't be dramatic, or you're too sensitive. You learned it from people who felt threatened by your strength, confused by your emotions, or uncomfortable with your honesty. Instead of embracing who you are, they pushed you to compress yourself into something smaller, quieter, easier. And for a long time, you complied, not because you were weak, but because you wanted peace, you wanted harmony. You wanted acceptance, but here's the truth that almost no one tells you. Shrinking yourself for the comfort of others doesn't create peace. It creates resentment. It builds a cage around your personality and forces you to live inside a version of yourself that isn't real. And every time you say sorry for simply being who you are, you tighten the bars of that cage a little more. There's a kind of tragedy in watching someone with potential, intelligence, talent, kindness, and fire inside them apologize for existing. Girls grow up thinking they're too much, when really, they've just been surrounded by people who found their light too bright. But that light, your light, isn't the problem. The problem is that you've spent years dimming it to protect the comfort of people who never intended to grow with you. Imagine what would happen if, instead of apologizing, you started embracing yourself fully. Imagine speaking your truth without shrinking it. Imagine expressing your emotions without feeling guilty. Imagine dreaming out loud without apologizing for your ambition. That shift, that single decision to stop saying sorry for who you are, is the moment your life begins to change. Because you don't need to apologize for having standards. You don't need to apologize for having boundaries. You don't need to apologize for wanting respect, love, or understanding. Those aren't unreasonable demands, they are basic necessities. And the moment you stop apologizing for wanting them, you start attracting people who value them too. When you stop apologizing, something else happens. You begin to grow. You step into the fullness of your personality. Your confidence stops depending on other people's approval. You begin to understand that your emotions aren't a burden, they're signals. Your voice isn't noise, it's truth. Your presence isn't an interruption, it's a contribution. And your dreams aren't unrealistic, they're a roadmap. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who misjudge you. That is not a reason to silence yourself. It's a reason to stand even taller. The world does not need another muted version of you. It doesn't need another girl who's been conditioned to swallow her thoughts and bury her feelings to make others comfortable. What the world needs is the real you, the unfiltered you, the unapologetic you. And yes, stepping into that version of yourself might feel uncomfortable at first. It might feel rebellious. It might even feel wrong. But that's only because you've spent so many years apologizing that confidence feels unfamiliar. Trust me, it won't feel unfamiliar for long, because the moment you begin living without apology, you'll feel something powerful: freedom. You do not need permission to be yourself. You never did. So stop apologizing for your existence. Stop apologizing for your truth. Stop apologizing for the space you take up in this world. There's a difficult truth most people avoid, but every girl eventually discovers it in her own way. Pain changes you. Not always in the ways you expect, and not always in the ways you want, but it changes you. And for a long time, you resist that change. You tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way, or why am I so weak? You look at the parts of you that hurt, the disappointment, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loneliness, and you treat them like flaws, as if having wounds makes you somehow less worthy, less capable, less strong. But pain isn't a sign that you're broken. Pain is a sign that you're growing. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet didn't become strong because life was gentle with them. They became strong because life demanded it. They learned strength in the moments when nobody showed up for them. They learned courage on the days when everything felt heavy, but they still got up and tried again. They learned resilience when life pushed them to the ground, and they had to choose, stay there, or rise. This is the kind of transformation that doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in fire, but it's easy to misunderstand your pain. It's easy to assume it weakens you because it hurts. Yet consider this: your muscles grow through resistance. Your character grows the same way. If you never carried anything heavy, you'd never become strong enough to handle what life will eventually ask of you. So when life places weight on your shoulders, it's not always punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. You see, there are girls who have survived things they never talk about: silent battles, emotional storms, nights where crying felt like the only language they could speak. They walk through the world as if nothing is wrong because they've learned to carry their pain quietly. And then they start to believe that the very act of hurting makes them lesser. But the unbelievable thing, the thing no one explains clearly enough, is that surviving those moments didn't weaken them. It fortified them. Your pain becomes the part of you that sees more deeply. It teaches empathy. It teaches clarity. It teaches you what you will no longer tolerate. It teaches you how to protect yourself, and more importantly, it teaches you what you deserve. Pain isn't pleasant. Nobody wants it. But the wisdom it gives you, that's priceless. The strength it carves into you, that's unshakable. And there's something else, something crucial. When you stop seeing your pain as proof of weakness, you begin to understand its power. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone changes the entire direction of your life. It turns suffering into growth. It turns hurt into insight. It turns confusion into clarity. Pain has a strange way of revealing who you really are. When everything is easy, you don't learn much. But when life challenges you, when your heart breaks, when your trust is betrayed, when your plans fall apart, you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. Strength you didn't know you had, courage you didn't know you could summon, determination you didn't know you were capable of. And once you've walked through something difficult, something heavy, something that tested you at your core, you come out different. Not damaged, different, more aware, more focused, more grounded, more powerful. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by the way you rose from it. Every scar you carry is evidence that you survived something that tried to break you. If that isn't strength, then what is? So instead of resenting your pain, learn from it. Instead of hiding your wounds, recognize the story they tell. Instead of believing your suffering made you weaker, understand that it made you unstoppable. There's a point in life where you finally begin to recognize how exhausting it is to live for approval of other people. And for many girls, that realization comes late, after years of bending, twisting, adjusting, and reshaping themselves just to fit into someone else's expectations. You spend so much time worrying about what others think that you forget to ask the most important question of all. What do I think of myself? From the time you were young, you were conditioned to seek validation. A compliment made you feel worthy. A criticism made you doubt everything. A moment of approval lifted you up, and a moment of disapproval brought you crashing down. It's like handing the keys to yourself, steam to a world that barely understands you. And when you give people that kind of power, they will use it, consciously or not. They will shape your decisions. They will influence your emotions. They will decide your direction. And slowly, your life stops being yours. There's nothing more fragile than confidence built on someone else's opinion. When people like you, you feel good. When they don't, you fall apart. When they praise you, you shine. When they ignore you, you dim. And soon, your entire sense of identity becomes dependent on reactions instead of values. You start becoming a reflection of what other people prefer, rather than a reflection of who you truly are. But the truth is, the approval you chase is temporary, always moving, always changing. People's opinions shift with their mood, their insecurities, their misunderstandings, and sometimes their jealousy. You could do everything right and still be judged. You could be kind and still be misunderstood. You could give your heart to someone and still not receive appreciation. So why build your confidence on something as unstable as that? Real confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment, from living in a way that matches your principles, your integrity, and your truth. It comes from knowing who you are and refusing to negotiate that identity for anyone's comfort. It comes from earning your own respect, which is a far more powerful and lasting validation than anything the world can offer. And it begins with a simple but difficult decision. Stop chasing approval. Stop allowing others to decide your worth. Stop performing for acceptance, because the moment you stop begging to be seen, you begin to see yourself. And when you finally see yourself clearly, honestly, without filters, you start to build confidence from the inside out. This kind of confidence is steady, it's quiet, it's grounded. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need an audience. It comes from doing the hard things you know are right. It comes from telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It comes from holding your boundaries, even when people get upset. It comes from living with discipline, purpose, and compassion, even when the world doesn't reward you immediately. And something powerful happens when confidence grows from within. You stop allowing people to manipulate you. You stop attaching your identity to their approval. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop agreeing just to avoid conflict. You stop giving small minds the power to shape your big future. You become someone who chooses her path with clarity rather than fear. You don't lose yourself the moment someone dislikes you. You don't crumble when someone disapproves. Because your foundation is no longer built on their reaction, it's built on your character. Approval might feel good, but it's not nourishment. It's dessert, sweet, enjoyable, fleeting. What truly nourishes you is self-respect. That's the meal. That's what gives your life strength, direction, meaning. So step back from the endless cycle of impressing everyone and disappointing yourself. You owe the world your honesty, not your obedience. You owe yourself a life that reflects your truth, not someone else's expectations. There comes a moment in every girl's life when she realizes that holding on to the wrong people is far more painful than letting them go, and yet walking away feels terrifying. You convince yourself that if you just love a little harder, try a little more, tolerate a little longer, things will finally change. You cling to the hope that the version of someone you see in your imagination will someday match the person standing in front of you. But deep down you know this. Staying in places where you are undervalued doesn't make you loyal, it makes you disappear. The truth is, people show you who they are long before you're ready to believe them. They show you in the way they dismiss your feelings, in the way they take you for granted, in the way they only remember you when they need something. And because you care, because you're kind, because your heart is soft, because you want peace, you accept behavior that chips away at your dignity. You excuse what hurts you. You rationalize what disrespects you. You confuse patience with self-betrayal. But there is nothing noble about tolerating what breaks you. You see, there are people who will take everything you give and offer nothing in return. You can pour your heart into them and still be treated as if you're optional. You can support them through every storm and they won't show up even when you're silently drowning. Some people are not capable of valuing you not because you lack value, but because they lack the emotional maturity, the self-awareness, or the integrity to recognize your worth. It's painful to accept, but essential. Your value does not increase in the hands of someone who refuses to see it. And this is where self-respect becomes an act of courage. Walking away isn't just leaving a person or a relationship or a friendship, it's reclaiming your identity. It's refusing to negotiate your dignity. It's saying, I am worth more than this, not out of anger or bitterness, but out of clarity. You can't grow in soil that suffocates you. You can't thrive in places that shrink you. And you cannot expect peace from people who are at war with themselves. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back and allow someone to lose access to you, not as punishment, but as protection. You deserve a life that doesn't require you to beg for love, for respect, or for consideration. And here's something important. Your heart will resist this truth. It will pull you back toward the familiar, even when the familiar is hurting you. It will whisper, maybe it'll get better. But hope without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Forgiving someone is not the same as keeping them in your life. Understanding someone's story doesn't mean you should write your own story around their chaos. When you finally walk away, something remarkable happens. You begin to hear yourself again. Your mind clears. Your confidence rebuilds. Your energy returns. You start to attract people who respect your presence instead of exploiting it. You begin to realize that solitude is far better than company that drains you. You learn that peace is not found in someone else's approval, but in your own decision to choose yourself. And here's another truth. The right people will never make you choose between your dignity and their affection. The right people won't punish you for having boundaries. The right people won't treat your loyalty as an invitation to exploit you. The right people will value you not because you demand it, but because they recognize it. Walking away is not a failure. It's a graduation. It's the moment you stop accepting half love, half effort, half respect. It's the point where your self-worth finally rises louder than your fear of being alone. You don't lose anything when you walk away from people who don't value you. You find yourself There comes a stage in life when you begin to sense that the future is calling you towards something bigger than what you've known so far. But the world around you tries to convince you otherwise. People tell you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to stop dreaming so big. They say it casually, as if they're giving you helpful advice, but really what they're doing is projecting their own fear onto your potential. And if you hear it long enough, you start believing it. You begin to limit yourself. You start shrinking your dreams to match the size of someone else's imagination. But deep inside, there's still that quiet voice, the one that refuses to die no matter how many times you silence it. A voice that whispers, "You're meant for more than this." A voice that recognizes something in you that the world has not yet seen. And that voice is right. You are meant for more, not because you're entitled to it, but because you're capable of it. The path to that more won't appear fully formed. It won't come with guarantees or a map. It will come with uncertainty, with fear, with doubt. But what matters is that it comes, and the way you respond to that calling, that determines the life you build. Many girls bury their potential under layers of insecurity, old wounds, self-doubt, and the need to be approved of. They wait for someone to give them permission to step forward, but life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't wait. And your potential will fade if you refuse to claim it. The future you haven't seen yet is not built on wishing or hoping. It's built on belief, and belief is a discipline. It means choosing to trust yourself even when your circumstances give you nothing to lean on. It means continuing to move even when you don't know exactly where the path leads. It means respecting your own abilities enough to let them grow. There's a powerful truth you must understand. The version of you that exists today is not the final version. You are still forming, still learning, still becoming. And everything you've been through, every disappointment, every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment you felt invisible or unappreciated, has been shaping you into a person capable of carrying a bigger future. All those struggles weren't roadblocks, they were training. They were preparing your character, your resilience, your insight, your strength. You can't see it while you're in the middle of it, but later you realize that the pain you survived became the foundation you stand on. Believing in a future you can't see is not naive, it's courageous. It's an act of defiance against everything that tried to convince you that you're small. It's reclaiming your imagination from the limitations placed on you by people who could never understand your capacity. You aren't meant to live a life that feels like a compromise. You aren't meant to wake up every day feeling like you're just enduring instead of becoming. You aren't meant to settle for relationships that shrink you, environments that ignore you, or dreams that don't challenge you. You're meant to build something, to grow into someone, to step into a story that requires your whole heart, your whole focus, your whole courage. And the moment you start believing that possibility exists, even faintly, your life begins to shift. You start taking risks that once terrified you. You start setting boundaries that once felt impossible. You stop apologizing for wanting something better. You stop tolerating what holds you back. You stop living in the shadow of who you used to be. The future won't just happen to you, you will shape it. You will grow into it. You will rise toward it step by step, decision by decision, day by day. And when you finally reach it, you'll look back and realize something remarkable. The girl you once were, the one who doubted herself, who second, guessed her worth, who who felt unseen and underestimated. She was the strongest version of you all along, because she kept going, because she believed enough to try, because she didn't give up on the possibility that life could be bigger than her fear. So hold on to that belief. Even if it's faint, even if it's fragile, even if it's the only thing you have left,